So we don't have cages in the van, and the reason we don't have cages in the van is because we want them to learn what we call elevator etiquette, which is no different than you and me in an elevator, shoulder to shoulder, and learning how to cope with that situation without going, hey man, get away from me, or any of that crazy stuff. Little reminder here for these guys, they're a little bit excited, but there is an imaginary little boundary here, a little border that they're not allowed to cross, right? So right here, I'm gonna remind LYLA a little bit, add a little bit of pressure to her. And I am going to invite Belle into the car. It isn't where the door opens and they just flood right on in. Okay, so I want to make sure that she does her thing. And then I'm going to wait for her to, they're getting the little highs in, right? Smell butts. Do what you need to do. The dog version of the handshake, right? It's a little bit awkward for us humans. We want them to learn how to get along. We want them to learn how to figure out how to be next to each other, how to coexist. Almost as if they live together. And so, again, they're all respecting the doorway space here, waiting to be invited out. No different than when we get to our destination. But this builds unity right here. This builds a good synergy for the dogs. So we prefer this than having them all locked up. LALO and LYLA are affectionately known on social media as my tag team champs. They are my helper dogs. They go with me to the classrooms to help teach kids about kindness and acceptance, diversity, all that cool stuff. And they're very helpful in a way that when we're talking about myths and perceptions, right? You look at these different breeds and they get almost vilified for the way that they look, and so you think about Chihuahua and you go, oh, yappy, ankle biting, Napoleonic complex having personalities, and then you meet LALO and LYLA who are okay with all kinds of sizes of dogs and different ages and kids and adults alike. So again, kind of changing the way people would look at a certain breed, no different than pit bulls. And so, yeah, we definitely want to make sure that we advocate for the breed itself, because pit bulls and Chihuahuas are the two most common breeds found in shelters all across the nation. So if we can start changing that curve a little bit, then I feel like we're doing our part. So we're on our way to pick up KUMA here in the city of Claremont. He's our big fella. He looks scary, but he's really he's a gentle giant. Hi, buddy. Just give me some spaces real quick. It's a little bit further out. Okay. He's ready, he's a little excited. Look at him checking in. So right now I'm gonna give him a little potty break. So he has a certain spot that he likes to mark, so we let him do his thing. Okay. He's a little bit specific where he has his bowel movements. So now that he got that out of his system, just like all of us, we're ready to go after a potty break. But with everything, we wanna make sure that and I'm just waiting for the path to be clear with the cars. What we wanna make sure is that we can't just throw any dog in here, man. This guy, when we got him, he was actually a dog that was very dog reactive, and we couldn't really get him around other dogs. But we ended up getting him to the point where he ended up being really, really good socially, and he's actually a very stabilizing force and energy in our pack. So again, we open the door right here. They all say hi a little bit, and then he already knows. He finds his little spot there. one of the important parts when it comes to dogs, especially for all of us that live in these urban areas, is we're going to be gone 8 to 10 hours a day, give or take, depending on how far away you're going for work. Even if you have another dog that your dog lives with, it still wants to hang out with other dogs. It still wants to socialize. And again, maybe the type of dog that it lives with, if you're lucky enough to have 2 dogs, maybe it doesn't like to play like that. Maybe they're in different age groups. So having the opportunity for your dog to get out once, twice, 3 times, 4 or 5 times a week and get out there and socialize and again, make friends, get that exercise in while you're away at work, by the time you come home, man, your dog is fulfilled. So the example that we always use when people say, oh, I have a big backyard, great, but Richie Rich also had a big mansion and also had a theater and a Mickey D's in there, but he even wanted to get out of that house. So again, regardless of how big your backyard may be, they've already searched and checked out every single part of that backyard. There's no stone unturned in that backyard. It stops being stimulating for him. So again, being out here, having the ability to be able to be around other dogs is so educational for them and exciting for them. LALO, muévete. Sweet.
The dogs understand Spanish more than English?
They understand tone more so than anything else. And so again, if I'm going sit down, then again that just sounds like I'm flustered. And if I go, hey, sit down, I just sound happy-go-lucky. So I could be a pushover at that same time. So either way, whether I'm angry or I'm too happy-go-lucky, it could be perceived as weakness with a very confident dog. So it's more so your tone and your energy. So I try to give a couple commands. If they override them, then I speak non-verbally. So we've established and worked with them on spatial pressure. There's 3 different forms of pressure when you're working with the dog. There's visual pressure, kind of you giving, or when your wife gives us the stink eye, right? And you kind of pretend like you don't see it, but you feel it burning through your soul. And then there's physical pressure, like me using the leash or even my hand to push them back, right? And then there's spatial pressure, which is me just encroaching that area that I want to claim. And so what we've established to all of them is spatial pressure is my form of correction, where I don't need to hold 6 dogs back. I just use my pressure and then they get it. So if a dog is pulling you down the street, or if you know someone that their dog is pulling their handler down the street and it looks like they're walking downhill when they're not, essentially the dog is taking the person out for a walk, because if you're behind, you're out of sight, out of mind. So you want to be able to reestablish that relationship and make sure that you get the dog in a follower state of mind and you become the driver of that walk. So again, maybe not going longer distances with minimal responsiveness, and maybe going short distance with maximum responsiveness. An example, the front of your house, walking back and forth, doing unpredictable walks. So that's why when we're walking with the dogs, I go ahead and I do some stops just to make sure that those are little health checks to make sure that I'm still driving this car, that they're still paying attention to me and not focused on these other triggers. And again, we try to prevent the dogs from having bowel movements when we're actually actively walking as a pack. Sometimes it does happen, but we want to give these opportunities before so we can get the walk in smoothly. There you go. We want to make sure that they get the little bowel movements in so that they're not having to have the need to stop when I have 6 dogs, 7 dogs, whatever it may be, and they all have to take a poop or they all have to pee. I want to make sure they get it out of their system before. No different than us going to work out. None of us want to have want to work out and do a gym session with having to have a bowel movement. The most glorious part of the day, which is picking up dog poop. And right here is where I allow them to clock their nose in, because when we get to walking, their nose is to be clocked out. I want their eyes clocked in and their olfactory sense clocked out. If your dog's nose is down on the ground, then you don't exist out on the walk. So just imagine, not only is your dog pulling you, but its nose is down on the ground. You really don't exist out on these walks. Right here I can kind of adjust if I need to give a certain dog a little more slack because it likes to be back a little bit further back. If one is a little bit further up front and I need to cut the leash so it's not dragging, I can manage all that. And even if I was going to put Belle over here, I still have a free hand here that I can adjust. It becomes my lever. They eventually all figure out their place back here where they can be most effective. Rocks. So right there, they got distracted. If you look over there, right there in the grass, they got distracted by a dead animal that was picked off right there. So that's all fur from some wildlife. Another aspect is for me to build the confidence to be able to walk these dogs effectively without getting flustered, without showing like I don't know what I'm doing. And again, these little pauses are just to make sure that the dog is checking in with me and that I'm still leading this walk. And if I feel like I need to give a reminder, then I will.